silence, the Bill Cooper Chronicles. Beyond the veil of what the media has suppressed to the open public, along with some specific networks who are renowned for using COINTELPRO tactics in order to discredit targets and patriotism, a wave of certain campaigns have focused on strategically discrediting the works of a man by the name of Milton William Cooper. The information presented in this short film is not intended to debunk against the many heresies surrounded by Bill Cooper's name, but by what has been subversively twisted in hopes to dismantle his words and decades of research altogether. As research documents, to put it simply, Bill Cooper was raised into an Air Force family that was active in the military, which led him and his family to always move around the world, living off Air Force bases where his dad was stationed. Being the son of a U.S. Air Force officer, he was briefly active in the Delame International Masonic-sponsored youth organization, better known today as the Demolay Society. As a child, he lived in many different countries, which led him to live his teenage years in Asia, graduating in 1961 from Yamato High School in Japan, and then enlisting in the U.S. Air Force that same year. By 1965, he was then honorably discharged and enlisted in the U.S. Navy, which ultimately followed a series of different positions that enabled him to have constant upgrade of top secret clearance in his rank, which inevitably followed the infamous moment where he one day experienced his first observation of a never-seen-before aircraft that hovered over the waters merely 2 miles out, then vanishing in plain sight. End result, he was to never speak of this sighting from that moment on. In the remainder of his Navy career, Bill encountered sensitive documents relating to or based on the entire topic of UFOs, and decided to use this experience as his initial focus of research. In this factor, Cooper was not even remotely fond of the fortune or fame that came from divulging this genre of information to the open airs, but rather humbled himself to endure misfortune and infamy despite being subject to ridicule. From this, he was finally given an honorable discharge from the United States Navy on December 11, 1975, which motivated him to get an associate degree in science and photography. With everything that he acquired in this magnitude of research, he came to the conclusion that the only way to convey every aspect of what he has learned throughout his life was to start an independent shortwave radio station and broadcast as much as he could through his research by staying true to what he spoke. But in the span of lecturing to every single state across the US, within a certain time, he was soon to realize that some of the information towards the UFO aspect of his brief observations in the military were primarily falsified documents, and that he was unknowingly manipulated into doing so for the benefit of those he was trying to expose. He held no ego and humbled himself before his earnest listeners, admitting that he was led false documentation. This lesson brought him embarrassment, but consequently sharpened his keen approach for what he was soon to see.
Understand this too, I'm not trying to tell you what the truth is, because sometimes the truth is extremely difficult to find. And sometimes we believe we're broadcasting the truth and it turns out we really aren't. But if we find out we aren't, we must be willing and instantly able to go on the air and say we were wrong and correct it. That's a responsibility that we all have to carry. It's embarrassing. I've had to do it several times because I'm a human being. I make mistakes too.
After realizing the true infrastructure of Luciferianism that was controlling the shifting gears of the government he once served right before his very eyes, Bill took no remorse on the matter and focused his entire life on exposing the occult underworld of theosophy, mystery religions, and its occult ties to the American government that so many uninformed American citizens still fail to understand. It came from this that the birth of his Mystery Babylon series spawned the radio waves. But that's not where he stopped. He continued to glorify and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ with the constant willingness to fight back. By this time, his voice became such a powerful influence that he started drawing the hidden elite's attention in a very big way. So much so that he began a public diary page on his website, posting daily updates on how the feds intervened with his privacy and freedom after quickly realizing that he always seen them constantly showing up around his house. Many mainstream media figures began to attack him and ridicule his body of work, but he did not bother paying any attention. Shortly after the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, Rush Limbaugh read a White House memo on the air during his broadcast which named William Cooper the most dangerous radio host in America. This on-air statement was aired specifically to prepare the minds of his listeners and easily accept his future outcome. As Cooper maintained a somewhat safe haven to do his work, he suddenly came to discover that the White House had unlawful possession of his security clearances while in the military service, and because of this reason, an order from the White House was issued for all federal agencies to begin investigation, persecution, and prosecution of Bill Cooper to be silenced permanently, none other but by the former President Clinton administration. After years of Bill Cooper filing FOIA requests and researching the IRS, he filed a lawsuit against the IRS in federal district court in Phoenix, Arizona, to force the IRS to produce proof of jurisdiction and delegation of authority, which the IRS was unable to do at all. To short-circuit Cooper's attempt to reveal the true nature of the criminal IRS and to carry out the unconstitutional orders of the White House, the agency lied to a grand jury, not allowing Bill Cooper to testify, and, in result, secured indictments against Bill Cooper and his wife. This agenda successfully stopped Bill from continuing his suit against the criminal IRS for fear of being arrested. After all of this took place, he continued to remain humble and persistent on his radio broadcast, narrating through multiple occult books from a Christian perspective in order to help the listener visually illustrate the power of Lucifer and his influence on modern society and secular religions. He kept focusing on exposing from topic to topic, posting daily updates on his website diary concerned of his safety, but because of what Bill Cooper had seen, experienced, and studied for so many restless years, due to his serious involvement what he was exposing with what he was exposing on his radio show, by mid-spring of 1999, he sent his wife and daughters out of the United States for the sake of their security, meanwhile remaining to live and work alone. So he continued. He aired on radio one night about Osama bin Laden and the American government possibly implementing a false flag stage attack in America 2 months in advance. 9/11 came, and he sadly stood corrected.
Supposedly, a CNN reporter found Osama bin Laden, television camera crew with him, went into Osama bin Laden's hideout, interviewed him and his top leadership, and he came out and told everybody, within 3 weeks, Osama bin Laden is going to attack the United States and Israel. Now, don't you think that's kind of strange, folks? You see, because the largest intelligence apparatus in the world, with the biggest budget in the history of the world, has been looking for Osama bin Laden for years and years and years, and can't find him. some doofus jerk-off reporter with a camera crew waltzes right into his hideout and interviews him. And I'm telling you, be prepared for a major attack. But it won't be Osama bin Laden. It will be those behind the New World Order. I wonder what targets are supposed to be. And if they don't, if this doesn't materialize in the next 2 or 3 weeks, it will eventually materialize because they haven't succeeded in getting the guns out of the hands of the American people, nor have they succeeded in taking our freedoms away. And so I can tell you with a certainty, they must do something terrible in order to stop this backlash and regain the sympathy of the mass herds of sheeple out there.
He made sure that no matter what happened to him from that moment on, that he was always going to keep his public diary updated daily, no matter what it took, for the sake of allowing others to know that he was still safe. In his latest public diary update online, he wrote on the same page that if one day he would stop updating his public diary, he would probably have been killed or kidnapped. That one day, in November of 2001, he finally stopped writing. And after finishing driving home from a radio show he had hosted that night, with courage of attempting to confront a SWAT raid team of men disguised in regular Metro clothing who were creating loud noise a quarter mile from his home, as he attempted to drive back to his residence, and Cooper's instinct to defend himself after discovering he was being ambushed, Bill Cooper took his last breath on his porch as he predicted he would, right before the only eyes of his dog, Crusher, and died alone without his family. This is based exactly on how the story was explained to me, for I spoke with one of the deputy officers over the phone, by which claimed to have helped execute the failed attempt of Bill Cooper's arrest.
An Apache County Sheriff's deputy is in the hospital after being shot in the head by a so-called militia member.
Now, what we know is that militia member is dead. Our Gary Harper has the very latest on what's going on with that story. Gary?
Marty Scott, this all happened in a little town called Eager, Arizona, which is just on the eastern side of the state of Arizona. It's almost on the border of New Mexico. This is what we know so far. Sheriff's deputies, we understand, were trying to serve some type of arrest warrant on a man by the name of William Cooper. He's also known as Bill Cooper. He reportedly has been known to be hostile towards law enforcement, so sheriff's deputies apparently disguised themselves as a bunch of rowdy teenagers in the back of a pickup truck in hopes of luring Cooper out, and it apparently worked. However, when Cooper realized what was happening, he pulled a gun and shot a 40-year-old deputy in the head. During the gunfight, Cooper himself was shot and he was killed. Now, this is what we know about Bill Cooper. Officials say he belongs to some kind of militia movement and has published several anti-establishment articles. He has a website, we understand, and on that website he acknowledges that there is an arrest warrant for him, but he writes, and we're quoting here, any attempt by any federal government agent or anyone else to execute the unlawful arrest warrants will be met with armed resistance. Any person who attempts to kidnap our children will be shot upon discovery, and that is apparently what happened earlier this morning. Sometime after midnight, Cooper reportedly pulling a gun and shooting a 40-year-old Apache County Sheriff's deputy in the head. That Sheriff's deputy, we understand, has been flown to Phoenix, where he is in a hospital. We are trying to get his condition right now. We do not know exactly what his condition is, and we understand that the militia member, in this case Bill Cooper, was shot to death. We do have a crew en route to Eager, Arizona, and we'll have a lot more coming up on tonight's news.
And I think these things need to be passed on to you.
It tumbled on its axis and went up into the clouds, and I was awesome.
It's in the middle of nowhere. There's a farmer milking his cow, fine sausage branches.
picked up from the very moment Bill's life was taken away by the hands of the establishment he reproved, was a hard-working beehive of countless deceptive campaigns all over the internet database. It came from this factor that his decades of research in the field of exposing occultism, along with the libraries of his recorded radio broadcasts, which essentially recited the initial interpretations of biblical scripture, gradually became the aim of his research credibility. The platform for the complete eradication of Milton William Cooper's character was put into full effect then, and proceeds to grow more rampant in this social network of perpetuated lies today.